All right. This video is pretty much gonna touch upon where we are at as a people in this country and things that are instrumental in keeping us divided instead of united. Um, Most of what we see nowadays, when you set aside the politics, this pandemic in which we are dealing with currently, and the people versus law enforcement. Um, I was just recently watching a video of LL Cool J going off, and you know, a lot of people who I look at and try to see where their mindset is and how they convey their input through dialogue and their uploads and stuff like that. What draws my attention to them is if they make sense. Um, LL was pretty much, as they said in the comment section, he was dropping gems. Um, I don't know what incident he was speaking specifically of, but I know it was an officer involved shooting. And pretty much he was stating that he don't have an issue with law enforcement. It's the particular individuals who feel that they can get away with things just because it is justified. And he was trying to point out the difference between what is justified and what is necessary. And I don't think that comprehension relays well to other people. Just because it is justified in why things are done or an action is taken doesn't mean that it's necessary. And he pointed out some good points. Like he said, okay, if the scenario had a different offer of details applied, such as, okay, suppose it wasn't a stranger who you could care less about being an officer, but it was a family member. If it was your brother or your mother or your father or your grandfather, and the same scenario, the same situation as an officer being dispatched to a call concerning an incident taking place, and it's a person, a loved one of yours, how would you deal with that situation? Would you try to figure out a way to handle it differently, or would you use the same tactics as you would a stranger? That point that he made was validated. It had a legitimate argument in comparison to a person who you as a cop see and have to answer a call in regards to them being a family member, a loved one, someone who you respect and have feelings for, empathy for, versus someone who you can give two shits about because they're not related to you. Case in point. Um, Another point he brought up was that the way this country is in the state that it is in right now, currently, is that we are divided as if we have to pick a team or a side to choose, as if Team Red and Team Blue are your favorite football teams. And the presidential debate or the election is the Super Bowl, so to speak. Like, is life really a game to be played at the expense of our lives? I mean, it's a fair question to ask, because that's the mentality that seems that people are entertaining nowadays. Like, who we're going to root for this party over here or this party over here, and we're the better team, and they are, and vice versa, and this, that, and other. And it's like, how do you lose yourself in such, how should I put this? nonsense that, as he pointed out, when 9/11 happened and occurred, it wasn't about parties. It was about uniting the country together so we could be as one, as a people, as a proudful people who value or have value as being an American. We don't have that no more. I mean, our value system is pretty much fucked. We're under such a disillusion about rights and freedoms and stuff like that that we can't even call it the land of the free anymore. More the land of the free and home of the restricted. I'm 44 years old. I mean, I guess when they said, when was America great? I don't know. I would say maybe in the late 70s, throughout the 80s, maybe at the beginning of the 90s. Based on my opinion, from what I see, that it wasn't, so bad, so to speak. But beyond that, it became a complete clusterfuck from that point on, going into the 2000s and such. Um, there was another point that LL pointed out, and it stood out, and it was an analogy that hit the nail on the head, so to speak. He said something to the effect of, when a bear and a wolf is fighting over a rabbit, the fox gets away with it. That analogy right there put things in a perspective that you can understand. And I'm like, okay, that was pretty spot on. Um, but I don't know. Um, it's just it's just certain things that in this country we entertain what divides us instead of what unites us. Um, it's crazy that as they say, like using the example of family, families are apart until tragedy hits, and then the families come together at the funerals, at the wakes, and such. And then when it's all said and done, they go their separate ways again. That's pretty much how this country operates. You know, when a tragedy happens, such as 9/11, oh, we all came together, we was all one. But as soon as 9/11 was over, said and done with, and stuff like that, business as usual. Back to entertaining nonsense and semantics. This race versus that race. You know, and it's sad. It's supposed to be united we stand, divided we fall. But as it so goes today, it's divided we stand, united we fall. And how it's going at the rate in this country under the current situation with this pandemic, with the coronavirus. Oh, we're united and falling due to the pandemic. It's just ridiculous. I don't know. Anyway, enough of me ranting on that. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my day. Probably like watching movies or going down the rabbit hole of YouTube and see what other thing. Oh yeah, uh, in the near future, I will be doing a video mocking Officer Brandon. Well, he ain't an officer, but ex-officer Brandon Tatum Ruckus. I gotta get his mannerisms down. When he does the hand things, when he says, you know, Officer Tatum, report.com, such and such, such and such, such. Gotta get the head on backwards and stuff like that, and you know, and get the rhetoric that he spews when it comes to black folks as a whole in general. with blanket statements and stuff like that. But coming to a video soon near you by Anthony Andrew Seward on his channel explicitly. But until next time, until next video,